Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Commission of City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order on November 17th, 2022 at right exactly 6 p.m. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Ray Baker,
Here.
Commissioner Joanne Steffen,
Present.
Commissioner Omar Kobian is excused, Commissioner Jeff Sims is excused, Vice Chairperson Matthew Chen,
Here.
Chairperson Alvin Dujanay.
Here. Okay, Commissioner Steffen will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I of the United God, indivisible, with liberty.
Thank you. We are now going to move to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Okay, that is a motion by Commissioner Baker. Second by Commissioner Sims. I know what I'm thinking about there. Electronic.
I'm sorry, Chair. It was mover was Commissioner Baker and seconder was Steffen.
Right.
Thank you.
No, Chen. Uh-oh, did it change on there? Okay. No, I don't think you're going. There we go. All right, the motion carries. All right, before we hear public comments this evening, I ask and encourage everyone participating to keep their comments respectful towards each other, especially towards individuals speaking. I embrace and support the First Amendment right to free speech, including everyone's right to speak at this meeting and share his or her views about issues concerning our city. But we can accomplish more as a city, as a private citizen, by being civil and respectful toward one another in this meeting. During the public comment period for each item, as well as during the public comment period for items not in the agenda, each member of the public who has signed up to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. Any person wishing to address the commission on any matter, either under the public comment section of the agenda, scheduled items, or public hearing, must fill out a request to speak form available at the door. The completed form must be submitted to the secretary prior to the agenda item being called by the chairperson. In speaking to the commission, members of the public may be limited to 3 minutes per person, except for the applicant for entitlements. The commission may establish an overall time limit for comments on a particular agenda item. Members of the public must direct their questions to the chairperson of the commission and not to other members of the commission, the applicant, the staff, or the audience. So the next item on the agenda are public comments. Are there any?
Yes, Chair, we have one. Tom Jarrell Sr.
Evening, Chair Dejanay and Vice Chair Chen and members of the commission and members of the staff and the public, both here in the chambers and watching at home. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Tom Jarrell Sr., speaking on behalf of myself. At the last meeting that I attended, and a nice little project came in, but it needed a general plan amendment. And I think it found favor with the commission, but ended up not passing. And I think the issue was the traffic on the unimproved road because of the private roadways and so on and so forth. And what I was thinking, I was hoping they might reopen the hearing so I could comment, because what you were approving, and I won't take any offense if your staff or the city attorney wants to say, no, he's all wet, but but back in the day when I remember of doing maps and processing projects, many times we would have unschooled people. They had land, they had money, they could retain an engineer and consultant. They really didn't know what they were doing. They just know they wanted to get entitlements on a property and be able to develop it, and, joint venture it, sell it to somebody. And so the way I would explain how a tentative map worked in relation to a final, and again, I won't take any offense. Somebody said, no, I don't agree with that. But I said, it's kind of like getting your learner's permit when you're driving, when you get a tentative map. What you're doing, you're approving entitlements subject to a long list of conditions of approval. And I believe the staff was communicating that there were conditions of approval. There could be beefed up, if you will, and I think it could have done that in the hearing to make sure that those roads were, the right-of-way were included, so you could have a public right-of-way. So I just want to share that with the commission, because at a tentative map thing, I've seen many tentative maps get approved and nothing ever, they go to seed after a while. Maybe they can't meet the condition of approval. The market goes bad. They can't get financing, a myriad of things. So not that you should be careless or remiss about your approvals, because you are granting an entitlement to it, but there are a long list, checklists coming after that. And it could even, I've seen maps come back to the commission where maybe they couldn't meet a certain condition of rules. So come back for that reason. And I'll say, look, we couldn't do this, but we did that. And, we want your approval on this. So at the tentative map stage, you have a safeguard through the conditions of approval. And that's what I wanted to share with the commission tonight. That's why I came. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
And happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you.
No, Chair.
Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. At this time, we have no items. Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is approval of the public hearing items. At this time, we have no items. The next item on the agenda is public hearing items. And we have item number 1. The applicant is requesting approval for a conditional use permit for a smoke shop within an existing tenant space in the Zono Plaza. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. The presentation this evening will be made by Senior Planner Julia Dakota. Okay.
The conditional use permit before you this evening is a conditional use permit for a smoke shop within an existing tenant space of the Zonos Plaza, which is on the northwest corner of Paris Boulevard and Atwood. It's the existing shopping center there. The use was originally in a prior suite, but due to another tenant moving in that suite, the tenant had to move to another suite. The proposed smoke shop includes sale of tobacco products and other nicotine and vaping products. It does not include any cannabis sales at all. The surrounding area is within the Sunnymead Village Specific Plan 204. It's community commercial zoning, which does allow the use with a conditional use permit. The properties to the west there are some residential, and they're in the Specific Plan Village Residential District. And there is also some existing single-family homes to the south. And then across the street, there's community commercial zoning. The access to the site is within the existing shopping center. Again, there's no street improvements, no additional landscaping or parking required. Everything within the project site is already existing. The use meets the criteria for a conditional use permit within that specific shopping center. The review process was conducted by staff, and we looked at the area, and also, as I mentioned, the use was already an existing use. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the proposed project exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act as an existing facilities. And at this time, myself and the applicant are here to answer any questions for you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
Question. Sure. How long was this tenant in the previous location?
I would have to ask them specifically, but it was a number of years, quite a number of years. And I will also mention that as of this evening, I have not received any phone calls or comments on the project.
Any other commissioner questions? At this time, would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening, Council. My name is Anna, and this is Nabil Kanda, the applicant, and we are here speaking on behalf of Captain Smoke Shop, and we are here to answer any questions or concerns that you guys may have for us.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions for them?
I understand that you guys were moved, well, a tenant took over the previous location. That's why you guys moved and are trying to get essentially legal now, right? So how long were you guys in that previous location within the same shopping center?
Like over 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner questions for the applicant?
I would ask is, and nothing really has changed. It's basically you've moved a couple of doors down. Okay.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. All right.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for putting us on the docket. We really appreciate the city of Moreno Valley, and we hope you guys have a great night.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, we'd like to open the public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the agenda item. Do we have any public comments?
No, Chair, we don't.
So I would take it the applicant doesn't want to add any additional information at all? No? Okay. If there's no more speakers, I'd like to close the public testimony and we'll move to deliberations.
I think this is real easy. They've been in the location in the shopping center for over 5 years. They were just, forced to move locations. We haven't had any issues, so it's clear cut. I feel approved.
Yes, I don't see any problem with it. I mean, they just moved a couple of doors down. It's the same existing business. It's just that they get their little ducks in a row and that's it. So I don't see a problem with it.
The only thing I'd like to say, I think they're running a good operation. From what I understand, they came forth to the city requesting this conditional use permit. Is that correct? So that says a lot in itself right there. I think these are good people and we need to move this forward for them.
I was going to say something along the same lines. Thank you very much for, following the rules, looking at the rules and, taking care of your business. Thank you very much. If we don't have any other deliberations, do we have a motion and a second? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I move to approve resolution number 2022-52.
I'll second.
Okay, that is a motion by Commissioner Chen and a second by Commissioner Baker. All right, the motion carries. Is there a staff wrap-up?
The action taken by the Planning Commission this evening is an appealable action. Any interested party that would like to file an appeal may do so within 10 days of this action. If an appeal is filed, it must be in writing and directed to the Community Development Director, stating the specific reasons for the appeal along with the appeal filing fee. If an appeal is received, it will be agendized for a public hearing before the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2, the applicant is requesting approval for a general plan amendment to change the land use designation of the project site to residential 10. A change of zone to change the zoning designation of the product site residential single family 10 district. A conditional use permit for a planned unit development and tentative track map for a 67 family unit lots. Is there a staff report?
The presentation this evening will be made by Contract Planner Kirk Corey.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, staff, and audience. As noted, the project is for a conditional use permit, general plan amendment, zone change, and tentative track map. The site is located at the northeast corner of Oliver Street and Brodea Avenue. Surrounding uses include the Discovery Christian Church to the north, an existing under construction single-family development to the east, single-family residential to the south, and I'm going to go into a little bit later in my presentation, but it is also a D.R. Horton recently approved track map 38236 to the immediate west across Oliver Street from the site. As noted, the project proposes a general plan amendment, change of zone, conditional use permit for the planned unit development, and tentative track map. The general plan amendment is to change the existing land use from residential 5 to residential 10. Residential 10 land use designation is intended to provide for a variety of residential products and to encourage innovation in housing types with amenities not generally found in suburban subdivisions, such as common open spaces and recreational areas that can be included. The proposed change of zone is from a residential 5 district to a residential single-family 10, RS10 district. And the RS10 district allows up to 10 dwelling units per acre, thereby allowing the proposed development, which is approximately 7.6 dwelling units per acre. The conditional use permit is for a planned unit development, which allows for the proposed development to establish unique criteria for such things as setbacks, lot width, lot depth, building separation, and lot size. The proposed PUD provides guidelines for various architectural styles for the home sites that meet or exceed the citywide design standards and the municipal code. All development within the tract must meet the standards as stated in the PUD. Access to the project site will be from Oliver Street on the west end of the slide, and also off of Brodea Avenue towards the south end of the slide as well. The development will be a non-gated private community, and all internal streets are private. The development will provide several designated guest parking spaces throughout the site. And I'd like to note that each of the residential lots will have a 2-car garage with a driveway that can accommodate 2 additional vehicles in front of the garage door as well. The PUD includes a typical plot configuration for the new homes and typical front yard landscaping. The guidelines will offer 3 elevation styles, which include traditional, Spanish, and craftsman. Each building style will have 3 color combinations to provide interest among the housing types. As proposed, this is referred to as the 3600 series. It's intended to be on lots that are approximately 3,600 square feet or larger, and they will have homes ranging in size from 1,575 square feet to 2,384 square feet. The tentative track map, I'll go to the other slide again, proposes the subdivision of the site for 67 single-family residential lots, and will also create interior private streets and record a designated area for a linear park noted on the north side of the slide. That park will have a meandering trail as well as some turf areas throughout. I mentioned earlier that the commission may recall, there was a tentative track map PUD presented to the commission in July of this year for track map 38236, which is noted on the left side of the slide or to the east of this project site. The part that I just mentioned along the northern edge will be a meandering trail that will lead to that development. That in development includes a park site that will have a turf play field area, shade structures, barbecues, benches, seats, meandering trail, that to be included as well. It is the applicant's intent that the residents of the proposed project will have full access and use of the park located and the mentioned track. An initial study was prepared by EPD Solutions in compliance with California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. The initial study examined potential impacts of the proposed project on the environment, and the initial study resulted in a mitigated negative declaration to serve as the appropriate CEQA document for the proposed project. All appropriate agencies and departments have reviewed the project and have conditioned accordingly. Staff has reviewed the project and recommends approval to the Planning Commission. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff is available for any questions from the commission, and the applicant is in the audience as well.
Thank you, sir. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
So this basically is like an extension of the previous.
Yes, but it's a different map, different project, but in a sense, yes, correct. It'll connect to it. Same developer, same builder, correct.
Okay.
One thing, when you say these are private streets, does that mean that the landowners have to take care of the seal code? How's that work? Like in the addition I live in, the city seal coats that periodically.
So this will be the responsibility of the homeowners association
Wow.
that is being established. That homeowners association has other maintenance responsibilities throughout the development as well, including the water quality management basins. So it will be an active homeowners association. And ultimately, it'll be part of the CCNRs for this development. So anybody purchasing will know that they are buying into an HOA with private streets.
Is that the way things are going pretty much now? If they have an HOA, then they have a private street, right?
It is becoming more common, yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions for staff? Okay. At this time, would the applicant like to speak?
Hello, good evening. Nice to see you all again. I'm Megan Wilden with DR Horton, and I'm here to answer any questions that you guys have for this new addition.
Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant? I didn't catch that right. Did you, on the parking, did you say there was that there's parking in the drive, there's parking on the street as well?
No, there's not parking on the street because it is a private community and because it's smaller lots and smaller street widths. We decided not to allow parking to do away with cars and cluttering and that. So no street parking on this. We did add throughout the community some additional guest parking spaces, and then they'll have their garages and their driveways like a standard home.
I guess because I was looking at the parking, I was wondering how would that be governed? Somebody parks out in front of the house, or is that something that the HOA comes around and?
That's exactly it. So that they'll be, like Sean mentioned, when they purchase a home, they'll be notified that there is no on-street parking, and there'll be either signage or red curb parking throughout. We tend to stay away from the red curb parking just for an aesthetic purpose, but we will have some kind of signage, and then it will be patrolled and regulated by the homeowners association and or security team that will drive periodically throughout the community.
Thank you.
I would also note that the signage is something that's actually pretty standard on our major streets that we have in town as well, where we don't allow for parking related to, bike lanes, those types of things. So it is a fairly common sign that you will see.
This may have been in the packet, but how many, is there some guest parking? How many spots do you have for guest parking in this track here?
We do definitely have guest parking throughout. I don't have the number right,
25.
25.
25,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, good.
No, I know that it's commonplace, like in apartment complexes. I have a granddaughter that lives in one, and they have designated parking, and then they have guest parking. But if you're caught out there, they will tow you, and, so they do have security that does that. So I guess that's how it's coming, to where you don't want too many cars out there. And it's just a wave of the future. It kind of like throws me back, because I'm an old timer. But I mean, people have to, I guess, get rid of a lot of the cars anyway, and just kind of scale it down.
Usually the guest parking allows for a 72-hour parking. And then if it's noticed that the car is parked there still after 72 hours, then they will get a notice from the HOA to remove the car. And then if it doesn't happen, then the tow company will come in
Right.
and tow
And I
them.
do know that they do allow for like handicap. They will not tow if your car has a handicap on it, or if it's got a sticker.
I-
Yeah, that's what I've been told.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other commissioner questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, at this time, I'd like to open the public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the agenda item. Do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay, well. Then I take it the applicant's not going to provide any other additional information. There's no one to speak on it. And we'll close the public testimony at this time and move into deliberations.
The one thing I like about this project, and like the one had last week, is we have those 2 spots in front of the garage door. There's so many of these deals that don't have that. So that kind of alleviates the parking a little bit. So you got, if they don't fill the garage up, they got 2 there and 2 outside. So I think this is a good project. I like the way the ingress and egress is on it, off of both Oliver and then I guess coming off that other Rodea. And then we got, actually is there 4 excesses on this thing or not? We got Oliver and then we have the 2 over here. Okay. And those 2. Okay. Very good. I think it's great as far as getting the people in and out of there. It shouldn't be any traffic problem at all. I like it.
Well, I actually like it too, because of the fact there are 2 parkings in the front, because some of these, they kind of butt right there, and it's kind of hard. We've had some that they just have the garage parking, and then they have some parking kind of on the street. These at least allow for 2 in the garage and 2 on the driveway. So it's kind of like 4. I mean, because it's getting a little tight where they want to build a lot of houses on the acreage, but then they don't allow for the parking. And then you've got people that complain that they're getting ticketed, or they're getting, and it's just a vicious cycle. So this one here, and then I like the fact that it's kind of adjoining the other one, and they can use the amenities of the other one. So it's kind of nice that they did buy, because we've heard that why don't developers buy more lots so they could just do that type of thing. So I don't see a problem with it.
I concur. It's a great project. I do like that they're starting to think about parking, because a lot of projects come in and don't allot for parking and puts it on the city streets. And then we have to maintain the streets. And then, sometimes in some of the, the tow companies are aggressive. I mean, they're just really aggressive. And my son's car got towed once. not fun. And yeah, he had to park on the street and boom, it was gone. He had to go to work that night just like that without a warning. And we were wondering where the car was, and we found out it was towed because there wasn't adequate parking. So I think this is great. I'm for one going to say yes to it. So thank you very much. All right, then. Is there a motion? B.
Can we, if I make a motion here, do I have to read all that or can I just read each resolution number? Is that good?
You can make a motion wherein you move for the adoption of resolutions 2022
Yeah.
48.
8.
Yeah, and you can just read the last two
49.
digits of each of them.
Okay. I move that we adopt resolution 2022-48 and recommend that to the city council. And then also we want to adopt resolution 2022-49, recommend that to the city council. Then the other one is resolution 2022-50, thereby recommend that to the city council. And then the other one is adopt resolution 2022-51 and recommend that to the city council. And I think that's got it.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Baker and another by, and another by
Gonna get me a
Commissioner
bacon, don't
Stefan.
they?
I did. I'm thinking about that.
There you go to breakfast, huh?
The motion carries. Is there a staff wrap up?
The recommendations of the Planning Commission on this item will be carried forward to a future city council meeting for their consideration and final action. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to item number 3, which is a proposed municipal code amendment to various provisions within Title IX planning and zoning. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be giving the staff report this evening. Sean Kelleher, planning official. The application before, or the project before you this evening for your consideration is a legislative item. It is our annual winter omnibus that we bring before the Planning Commission and ultimately the City Council for their review and consideration as well. As part of the omnibus this evening, I'm going to just give a brief overview of each of the sections that are proposed to be modified. And we'll just start out with the permitted uses table 9.02.020-1. The permitted uses table is being amended to allow for single-family residential uses within the residential 10, residential 15, 20, and 30 districts. This will help us further develop housing within the city of Moreno Valley, which is a goal of the state of California and aligns with our housing element. The second amendment is to our general plan amendments procedures. We are updating provisions within the general plan amendments section as proposed in the red line strikeout that was presented in the packet to be consistent with our current other entitlement processes we have. The next section is temporary use permits. Temporary use permits is being amended to allow for the owner or operator manager of a commercial shopping center to be able to bring in any tenants they wish, or any individuals or companies they wish for a special event permit. Currently, it is limited to only tenants of a shopping center, with the exception of food vendors. So this gives more authority to the property manager, owner, to be able to do business as they see fit and bring in individuals for special events that they feel would be best fit for their shopping center. The next amendment is for the downtown center. As the commission is well aware, the downtown center was a new zone created as part of our recent general plan adoption last year. The downtown center was very focused on having a flexible set of standards. One such standard that we've identified that is does not possess the same flexibility as many of the others is actually the open space requirements. Therefore, the recommendation as part of the amendment, or this amendment is recommended to identify that open space does not have to be only outdoor, but could also potentially be inclusive of indoor open space facilities, such as a movie theater, an indoor gym, those types of recreational facilities that could be made available to residents within the downtown center. So again, currently the requirements are open spaces only outdoor. This now allows it to move indoor. It also gives the commission, where appropriate, say adjacent to a large community park or otherwise, that is envisioned for the downtown center, allows for a reduction in the outdoor open space requirements or common open space requirements, as well as the private open space requirements. All of this is at the discretion of the Planning Commission, ultimately in your action on these projects. The next one is fences and walls. This proposal here for fences and walls intends to amend our municipal code to require developments that are contiguous to, that means, touching our SR 60 corridor, to install either block wall or tubular steel fencing. Traditionally, we will see the block wall with residential, tubular steel with our commercial and office uses within the city. The reason for us moving to put this requirement in is ultimately to have a more aesthetic freeway corridor through the city of Moreno Valley. Currently, Caltrans utilizes chain link where there are not existing residential sound walls that are in place. So we are trying to improve that corridor and the visualization along it with this provision. This provision can, where appropriate, actually be waived by the Public Works Department if they have a program in place where they may be doing these types of improvements. Examples would be along frontage roads. There is a requirement that if you have frontage on a frontage road adjacent to a freeway, you still are required to do the block wall or fencing in between the frontage road and the highway. So it gives Public Works the opportunity to say, you know what, we're going to take it in Luffy and we're going to do it all as one project here in the near future. The next provision is drive-in, drive-through fast food restaurants and takeout restaurants. The provisions here are intended to be amended to be a technically based rather than the setback standard that is currently in place. The new requirements require for the speaker boxes to utilize best available technology with ambient noise sensors to adjust speaker volumes based off of ambient noise at any time. Our current code just identifies at the peak daytime noise level and then establishes a 100-foot requirement. This will actually allow for better reduction in noise associated with these boxes and more compatibility should they be adjacent to residential uses. Off-street parking requirements. This actually touches on an item that was just recently discussed in the previous item before the commission tonight. Staff is recommending an amendment to the municipal code that requires that all parking within multifamily residential developments be free to the residents. Only parking above and beyond the required parking would be able to be leased. So that this provision is requiring that all parking within a apartment complex that is mandated by our municipal code must be free to the tenants. This would only, and I will note, this is for future development. This is not retroactive. The last two are related to tentative maps. The first is adding definitions, adding clarification to the use of finance and conveyance maps. Again, this provision is being amended to better define these maps and how they are utilized within the city, and also assist in us moving forward with, again, housing development, which is a primary goal of our housing element in the state of California. Finally, the last one is the final land divisions map. Again, these are provisions that are being entered in, are being modified to allow for best available, or what I should say is to be consistent with industry standards. I would note prior to the meeting this evening, staff did distribute a memorandum noting that we inadvertently retained, that some language was inadvertently retained that was rendered surplus by the preceding amendments that are within this same section. Therefore, we are requesting that the Planning Commission, as part of their resolution, should they decide to recommend approval or recommend the City Council approve these amendments, introduce this amendment as part of their action this evening. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, sir. Are there any commissioner questions for staff? So all of these actions, the fencing wall, the speaker boxes, you said that's all for anything that carries forward.
That is, yes, that is for anything that carries forward, or any, should we see a rehabilitation, a modification of a, somebody comes in with their commercial, drive-through and they decide they want to go from the 1-lane standard to, the split double lanes that we're starting to see. At that point, they'll be coming in with new speaker boxes, which will need to comply with this requirement.
Would that incorporate anything that's currently in planning now, or is there a set date that says, so it has to be approved first and then anything goes forward? So nothing that's like in planning right now.
Everything if it is not entitled, they are subject to these rules if they are not entitled before the final action date of this ordinance being implemented.
Okay. All right. So they could have started the process, not been entitled, and then they'd be subject to.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned that it had something to do with on the parking. I think it said the allotted parking. Now, the allotted parking that I would imagine that follows under the umbrella of the current coding per units and that sort of thing.
Correct. So if I have an applicant who's proposing a 2-bedroom unit,
Mhm.
there is a minimum parking requirement for that 2-bedroom unit. That minimum parking requirement has to be retained within the development as free. If it's I believe that for 2 bedrooms, it's 2.5. Yeah. So it'd be 2.5 parking stalls that would have to be remained on site as free. So if I've got, multiples of those, you see where that, that would add up over time. But if I have a developer who comes in and says, okay, my requirement's 300 spaces, that's how large their apartment complex is, I'm going to build 350. Those additional 50 parking spaces that they are doing over and above our municipal code minimum standard, they could charge for those if they desired to.
So I take it that's going to help reduce our street parking footprint then in the future.
For future projects, yes.
Okay. That's fantastic. Well, thank you, sir. Any other commissioner questions for staff? Well, I guess you're the applicant, so I don't know if the applicant wants to speak.
I have nothing to add this evening.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we'll open public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the agenda item. Do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
He has a feeling.
Well, we can collect a speaker slip from Mr. Jarrell after the meeting. That's
Okay.
fine.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair Dejanay, Vice Chair Chen, Commissioners, members of staff, and the public. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just, in my latter years, I've been working in commercial property management, and I like the idea of opening up the commercial properties for outside vendors, special event type things. We have a small center, and I don't think, no, we've never entertained an outside vendor other than maybe a car wash or something for somebody who has a special need, a loss in the family. but we're a little bit underparked anyhow because we've built to old standards. But I think it's a good venue because it attracts people to the center, especially in some of these, I'll call them the in-between centers, the ones that were built in the boom years that are probably overparked. Well, gobs of, Marine Bay malls. So they got lots of surface area there. So if we can bring in a special event from outside, it'll bring traffic to the area. It's a good thing for the center and the public. So I'm going to commend the staff for bringing these things forward and you considering them. So thank you for allowing me to speak. I'll fill a slip out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Just checking.
No.
Okay. If there's no more public speakers at this time, we'll close the public testimony and move into deliberations. I'll go first. These are great. I'm just going to put it out there. This is fantastic. I've been around the city for a while, and I not necessarily live next to a place where there was a speaker box, but visited. And at 10:30 at night, you can hear, you know, would you like fries with that? And so, so I take, I'm not going to ask the question. So by moving the box or putting it in a direction where the ambient noise doesn't affect the resident, that's great. The parking, I mean, the fencing, I'm not going to, I love the fencing. I had to actually, when I read this, I had to look up tubular fencing. No, my initial thought was the rounder holes, not quite like the chain link, is the ones you couldn't actually put your feet in and climb up. But when I looked it up, it looks more like cast iron. Yeah, it's fantastic. That's beautiful. All of these, wow. I don't know who looked into these and thought we're going to make some changes, but hats off. Hats off to staff for this.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I really do like the freeway deal because it'll make the city look a lot better. I mean, go down some areas in other cities and you do notice the fencing. You do notice the block walls and they even have, designs on them. And it looks really, really nice. It makes the whole place look nice. And I think it's time for us to start doing the same type thing. And so all these things that you guys want to get, you just have to. You got to go with the times and you have to start upping the game and allowing things to come in and let's make it a good city. And this kind of is a start. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a move.
Okay, great. If no other further deliberations, do we have a motion and a second?
I move to approve resolution 2022-47.
I'll second.
And the ABC on
Yeah,
there.
we have.
And you have to
No,
put this in.
this
so.
one. What
As
is-
amended,
as amended, right?
or as recommended by staff.
So that's your original recommendation as amended.
As recommended by staff, I move to approve resolution number 2022-47
As amended.
as amended. Thank you.
I'll second that.
I seconded it.
You did already? You did? I didn't catch you. All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Chen and a second by Commissioner Smith. The motion carries. Do we have a staff wrap-up?
The recommendation of the Planning Commission on this item will be carried forward to the City Council for their consideration and final action. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is other commissioner business, and we have no items. So we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is staff comments. Do we have any staff comments at this time?
Thank you, Chair Dejanay. I just wanted to thank Michael Cobden for subbing in today for Colin as our city attorney for this evening. I have no other comments for tonight. Michael, do you have any?
Thanks for having me and for not making me speak.
There you go.
All right, the next item on the agenda is planning commissioner comments. Do we have any commissioner comments at this time? All right. Well, with that said, let's see. The planning commission meeting is adjourned at 6:50 p.m. to our next regular meeting that is scheduled on December 8th, 2022 at 6 p.m.